Let's take a look at some celebrity photos and talk together about what kind of line they have. This is Jang Won-young, and as you can see, this is her right eye and this is her left eye. Even at a glance, you can see that the line doesn't disappear but extends straight out. So just looking at this photo, the right eye has an outline while the left eye is more of a semi-outline. It looks like this. Of course, there's one more thing I want to mention. The type of double eyelid line is usually determined based on how it looks from the front, but in reality, the shape of the line can change depending on how you open your eyes or tilt your head. For example, even someone with an in-out line might look like they have an inline if they lower their eyebrows and open their eyes wide, because the skin will cover the line as it comes down. The reason I showed you Jang Won-young first is that the line of her eyes has changed a bit compared to before. If you look in the past, her right eye had a more natural in-line to in-out line, while her left eye was more of an in-out to semi-out line. So now it feels like the line has gotten a bit higher. If you look at her in the past, her eyes looked younger and gave off a more natural impression, but now they look bigger and more glamorous. Should I say her image has changed to more of a goddess type? We can also see this kind of change in her image through her eyes. If you look at Jennie's photo, just judging from this picture, her left eye looks like a semi-out and her right eye looks like an outline. Simply put, for both eyes, the crease doesn't meet the inner corner but continues smoothly, making her eyes look open and clear. And while Sinnonhyeon is well known for her beautiful nose, her eyes are actually very pretty as well. If you look, she has a refreshing looking double eyelid line that falls somewhere between in-out and semi-out. So, interestingly, most of the celebrities I've shown so far tend to have double eyelid lines that are either semi-out, in-out, or out. When we look at someone's eyes, it's said that we often mistake the height of the double eyelid line for the actual size of the eyes. So, if the double eyelid line is large and continues all the way to the inner corner of the eye, it creates an optical illusion that makes the eyes look bigger. That's why having a double eyelid line with a certain height can naturally be advantageous. This time, on the other hand, I'd like to show you a more natural double eyelid line, so let me talk about that using Yujin as an example. If you look, you can see that the double eyelid line comes toward the inner corner of the eye and then disappears as it meets the eyebrow line. But basically, since her eyes are already so big and beautiful, even if the double eyelid line fades away like this, you would never think her eyes aren't pretty. Of course, if the double eyelid line were higher than it is now, the eyes might look even bigger and more open, but even as they are, they look very natural and beautiful. So there are actually quite a lot of people for whom this kind of line suits them well. So if you prefer this kind of line, I think it's perfectly fine to go with an inline crease. And of course, when it comes to celebrities with inline double eyelids, we can't leave out Minji. Depending on how much she opens her eyes or raises her forehead, the double eyelid line can look different, but basically it's considered an inline. At most, you could call it an in-out line, but even so, her eyes still look really big and beautiful. So you could say she's one of those idol celebrities who really suit inline double eyelids. If you look at Jisoo as well, her double eyelid line is quite natural, and her eye shape is so good. When we talk about eye shape, we mean the strength with which you open your eyes, and since she opens her eyes well, her gaze is very clear. Thank you. From what I see, I think it's more of an in-out line. When it comes to glamorous double eyelids, I mentioned Karina. Some people see it as a semi-out or outline, but in this photo it actually looks more like a slightly higher inline within the in-out range. If you look, the double eyelid line comes together and then disappears. But Karina basically has incredibly large eyes on both sides. The front part of her eyes is also very open, and the proportion of her eyes compared to the width of her face is honestly unbelievable. And that's why her eyes just look so incredibly big and exceptionally striking. But actually the double eyelid line isn't that high, now that I look at it. So today we briefly reviewed double eyelid lines and the celebrities who have them. There are a lot of misconceptions and misinformation about double eyelid lines, so if you have any questions, please leave a comment. I'll do my best to answer them as well. Thank you.